I wish to welcome everyone to this webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's give it a minute till everyone joins, and then we may start the session. We will be opening up right now the chat functionality. So I'd like to invite everyone to introduce themselves in the chat and to let us know where you joined us from. And what organizations you work for. That would be very interesting to us all to get to know each other. But if you have questions, we'll be talking about that. Please keep the questions in the Q&A section, and so we don't lose your valuable questions in the chat box, especially that we're expecting to get many messages in there. We'll be starting in a minute. I see a lot of people have already joined us. I see Mr. Kamal, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're welcome. Mr. Fazle, you're welcome. Happy to see you. We're having people joining us from Abu Dhabi, Saudi, UAE, from Oslo. Nice, and very happy to see people jumping on board from around the globe. I think we are ready to start. So again, good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very happy to have you joining our session today to introduce the Cleantech Alliance for KSA. My name is Munif Barakat, and I'm from Solar Arabic, and we have partnered together with the Clean Energy Business Council, CEBC, and MESIA, Middle East Solar Industry Association, the biggest two associations in the MENA region that are focused on the clean technologies and fostering the adoption of clean technologies, came together in order to bring everyone on board to participate in this clean energy transition, whether we're talking about industrial decarbonization, renewable energy, electric mobility, all of that is included, and we'll be covering these topics today. So please stay tuned. This event is a physical event that will happen on the 9th of September later this year in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. And this webinar is just leading for it to give everyone a glimpse of the discussions that we will be having in the physical event in Riyadh in September. And we will be also providing some market updates from the perspective of economics, market, and regulations from my esteemed speakers today. I'm very happy to have today on board Mr. Fazle Moyeen Quazi, who is the president of MESIA, Dr. Nasser Saidi, who is the founder and chairman of CEBC MENA, Mr. Hisham Alhegelan, who is the CEO for the Middle East at Yellow Door Energy, and Mr. Tim Armspy, who is the partner at Pinson Masons. All of them have a very good experience in the region and in Saudi Arabia specifically. We're privileged to have the top organizations in their domains sharing their expertise with us, and that's something that we're looking for as we're going forward. I will do a final administrative reminder for everyone before we start. If you want to introduce yourself, share your LinkedIn profile, meet the others, introduce your organization, do that in the chat, please. But if you have a question to the speakers, please send it in the Q&A section and don't delay till the end. Write it as soon as you get the question, and we'll make sure to answer the relevant questions during this session that will be for 1 hour from 2 p.m. till 3 p.m. Saudi time. Pretty quick, I've introduced the Alliance in a couple of words, and I'll be covering now just a little overview of the event, and then we'll give the chance to our speakers to introduce themselves, and then we will have a market overview from Mr. Moyeen from Aqua Power and MESIA, and then we will be going through the panel discussion. The focus of the conference that will happen in Riyadh on the 9th of September will be to bring all the players in the clean tech sector, including governmental sector, people that are responsible for regulations, the technology providers, companies that are based in Saudi, already implemented amazing projects in the clean tech industry, whether it is in automotive, electric mobility, or renewable energy, or industrial decarbonization. and many international players with technologies and services that are interested to enter the Saudi market, which we invite them all to be part of this movement and to participate in the Vision 2030. That's a huge vision. That's probably the biggest program in the world that actually brings so many collaborators in order to make that huge transition in the Saudi economy. There will be plenty of experts that will be introducing and a lot of technologies, important topics to the audience. There will be a lot of discussions, networking, and definitely a great opportunity to find the right partners to work with, whether it is somebody to, let's say, a multinational company that is interested to enter the Saudi market, to meet a local partner or meet a customer, and all of that networking will be facilitated throughout the session. So please, I'll be sharing our contact details as the organizers to contact us. Please to, in case you have the interest to participate in the event. I've already mentioned the audience while I spoke earlier. And before I move to the presentation, I'd like to ask our esteemed speakers to introduce themselves, and especially in the beginning, the president and chairman of CEBC and MESIA, to introduce as well the associations and the role that we are playing, let's say, in here in order to help to decarbonize the economy and to promote clean technologies. We'll start with you, Dr. Nasser Saidi, who is the chairman of CEBC, to have a quick introduction from your side, please. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon and salam alaikum, as we say in this part of the world. So first of all, this is the first event that we are preparing together as the Cleantech Alliance. I'm very pleased with that because it's also happening in Saudi Arabia. So in advance, I'm telling you that I'm extremely optimistic for our part of the world, for Saudi, UAE, and the other GCC countries, because I think they're going to set the trend for clean energy, for clean technology, and the rest. So the CEBC is a platform to promote clean energy, clean technology, renewables. It's an NGO, a not-for-profit organization. It brings together both the private sector and the public sector. As we know, whenever we're talking about clean energy and renewables and technology, we have to bring the public sector and the private sector together. So that's essential, not only for terms of technology, because the private sector is at the forefront in terms of this, but also because you have to have the ecosystem in place to allow the investments and to encourage it. And we've been established now some 12 years already. 12 years ago, 13 years ago, people weren't talking about clean energy, particularly in our part of the world. Now everybody's talking about clean energy. So it's become part of the foundations of our economy. And in order to make it happen, we have 5 working groups. One of them is on energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a low-hanging fruit for our part of the world. The other one is climate finance. Climate, of course, is the major risk our economies and societies face in the region. We have to be able to provide the financing for climate risk adaptation and climate in general adaptation, climate risk mitigation. The other one is green hydrogen. Again, this is a very interesting industry. We're right at the beginning of it, but potentially it could be a major export industry for many of the countries of the region. We have a working group on EVs, future mobility, we call it, because the way we move people and things is going to be radically changing over the next decade. And the 5th working group is women in clean energy, WICE, because we also would like to promote a greater participation of women, entrepreneurs, and others into the clean energy framework. So that is a quick brief on the Clean Energy Business Council. So we're pleased to partner in this alliance. I'm looking forward to our event in September, and we'll, in this webinar, talk about some of the major elements that makes it very, very promising. And one major element, I think, where I'm very optimistic for the future is that we will become exporters of clean energy and clean technology. And already I think that is happening, and I think that's extremely promising. Instead of being always importers of technology and consumers of technology, I think we're going to become exporters of technology. And I think on this webinar, we're joined by Moyeen from Aqua Power. They, I think, along with Yellow Door and the others, are at the forefront in terms of being exporters. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser. Appreciate this introduction from your side. I'm personally aware of the great progress and contribution of CEBC to the industry in the region, and I'm happy we get this chance to introduce it to our audience. Thank you, Dr. Nasser. I'll move now to Mr. Moyeen, please, to also have an introduction from your side and to introduce MESIA, please.
Thank you, Munif. Thank you for setting the tone and the platform. Much appreciated. And Dr. Nasser, appreciate your setting the nice pitch on this webinar. My name is Fazle Moyeen. I work in Aqua Power as the Executive Vice President, looking after the technical service functions for business development globally for all technology verticals in Aqua Power. Additionally, I also am the president in MESIA. And MESIA is a very unique platform. It's a solar renewable platform across MENA region, set up in 2009 with a prima facie focus and attention to collaborate, to connect all the industry experts, developers, innovators, regulators, financial institutes, all on a single platform to exchange and collaborate. So this is another platform where we would like to showcase what MESIA can propose along with Solar Arabic for this webinar to give you a very good view of the renewable industry, especially in MENA region and with focus in KSA, green hydrogen, renewable, power to export, etc. So we will talk about it in a short while. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moyeen, for the introduction. I'll move now to Mr. Hisham Alhegelan from Yellow Door Energy to also introduce yourself, please, and the company.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to have been invited and to be able to speak here. On me, I've been in the industry for a few years. I mean, I started in the industry with district cooling at NTCC, and then moved on to utility scale development at Abengoa as country manager for Saudi Arabia, although we ended up doing more desalination than we did solar, and mostly with Aqua Power. And I have the honor of and the privilege to have joined Yellow Door Energy a month ago as the Middle East CEO, and it is a wonderful outfit. I mean, it's the leading CNI company in the Middle East, without a doubt. Number one in Jordan, number one in Bahrain, and just getting started in Saudi Arabia, but where we will soon be number one, I'm sure. And we also have a company in South Africa. And we're very proud of our team. We're very proud of the effect that we're having in the Middle East, and we intend to keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hisham, for the introduction. Very happy to have you on board. Definitely looking forward to learn from you throughout this session. Then I'll move to Mr. Tim Amsby with a partner at Pinson Masons. Today we'll be filling a very unique position in our panel, introducing us to the latest updates to the Saudi regulations. And I'd like to give you the chance to introduce yourself and the company, please.
Thank you, Munif, and good afternoon, everyone. So as mentioned, I'm a partner with Pinson Masons. Pinson Masons is an international law firm. We're well known for our expertise in the energy and infrastructure sectors in particular. In the Middle East, we've got 5 offices, including 2 here in Saudi, and I'm talking you from the Riyadh office where I am based. For myself personally, I first came to the Middle East 25 years ago this year and had the opportunity to work on some of the first IPPs in the region. including Mana Power Plant in Oman, and some of the early IWPPs here in Saudi. And I've, been a resident since then, watching the developments as we've pivoted towards clean energy, and the scale at which that's being delivered now. I don't think anyone here would have predicted even 10 years ago. So pleasure to be here, and hopefully people will find the legal aspects interesting.
It's always interesting because it's the least understood one typically, but when we hear that from you, I'm sure that you will help to demystify a lot. So thank you for joining us today, Tim. Okay, and definitely, I don't want to keep that to the end or miss that. I really wish to thank a lot the people behind the scene that helped to make this event possible. And I'll start with Rasheen, who's with us on the call, and Amira from the CEBC team. I'd like to thank Hind, Sol, Jitin, and the team from the MESIA that are in MESIA and helped a lot to organize this event today and the event in September. I'd like to thank also Josephine from the Yellow Door Energy team for helping us to coordinate, and Jamila and Hanna from the Solar Arabic team for being very helpful, instrumental to make this event happen as it happened today. We have more than 100 attendees, and we have a big group of interested companies and people, and I see manufacturers, developers, people from all around the globe attending the session, and that's something that makes me really happy, and it validates the high interest in the Saudi market. So without further ado, we will jump into the quick introduction that I've promised you to have with Mr. Moyeen from MESIA to give us a quick overview about the market status, and then we will get back to have our panel discussion right after that. So please, Moyeen, let me know how you wish me to go through the slides.
Thank you, Munif. So gentlemen and ladies on the call, so just to give you set the tone of our discussion today. This is this slide. This is from BNF source courtesy, is the slide that is actually a testimony of the rapid growth and development of renewable energy. So if you look at the snapshot of 2024, vis-a-vis what we will be looking to 2050, where a lot of the countries have pledged net zero carbon emissions, we are clearly seeing the growth trajectory. The renewable mix is going to be 62%, comprising from PV and wind, from what we are today until 2050. The transformation is clearly clean energy, and we could see that the oil-based and fossil fuel, mainly from oil, is actually coming to almost a zero. There is going to be a bit of gas, which is going to help us in giving the stability to the grid and for the energy to shifting. So this is primarily because of the intermittency of the renewable energy. What we also see is interesting is the increase in storage and battery, because with the renewable penetration for grid resilience and stability, we see that the grid storage is absolutely imperative. Moving on to the next slide. This also gives us a snapshot that whereby the forecast of 2024, from 53 gigawatt, we are expected to triple to 150 gigawatt in MENA region alone, whereby in Saudi Arabia, the growth is going to be the share of 40%, and 85% of this entire renewable energy is going to be coming from PV. Now, why PV? Because that's now the lowest cost of energy that can be produced globally by far from any technology. One point is that looking at the last 2 years growth trajectory in Kuwait, Egypt, Algeria, Oman, and other parts of the MENA region, we see that the 150 gigawatt of estimation by 2030 is now being recorrected to almost 180 gigawatt. Moving on to the next slide. Just to let you know that from the MENA region, now we focus zero down onto the KSA, and we see how the rapid transition of renewable energy with a purpose has been dominant for the last few years. So 2020 has been the landmark for the first PV project of a size of 300 megawatt, which was Sakaka project, and the tariff at that time was 2.34 US cents per kilowatt hour. And that point of time, this was the groundbreaking, the lowest tariff in the region. The second project, I would say, second project, but the first wind project in KSA was Dumat Al Jandal, and that had also a record-breaking tariff of less than 2 cents in Saudi Arabia. Now, from 2020, 2022 to 2024, we see a huge increase of project of the order of 44 gigawatts in KSA under construction, under active development and being tendered. Of this, I can tell you that Aqua Power has got the mandate from PIF, and this year alone, we have closed out about 11 plus 3, 13 to 14 gigawatt of PV and wind project, and we have another pipeline of 15 to 20 gigawatt each year from today until 2030. This is the PIF project that has been mandated for Aqua Power to develop and build, and there is the REBDO program, which is also transacted, and this year I believe it is around 5 gigawatt that is being transacted by SPPC. In addition, we have close to BESS projects of the order of 8 gigawatt hour that is currently under tendering. The bid submission is August this year. In addition, SPPC and SEC have gone on their own accord to provide about 25 gigawatt hour of BESS storage under EPC model. So this is what we are today, gentlemen. And looking at 2030, the magic figure of 130 gigawatt of renewable development in KSA is not only a reality, but I believe it's going to happen, and perhaps we may exceed the number of 130 gigawatt. So overall, from today until 2030, we see an increase of 20 gigawatt hour of tendering of renewable energy alone in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And by 2030, Saudi Arabia hopes to achieve an ambition of 50% of energy mix. Over to the next slide. Now, one thing is very critical and key, and we've seen the example of the last few months in Spain, what has happened. The grid resilience is of key importance, and here I have to give it to the authorities, the Ministry of Energy and SEC and SPPC on the drive to make the grid more resilient. So they are augmenting, they are upgrading the transmission system, the distribution system. They are also compounding it with the installation of strategic co-located or distributed BESS of the order of 48 gigawatt hour, in addition to the smart metering, smart control, distributed centers, and transmission line. So the entire reinforcement of the grid, the electrical network system, is bringing in the stability, the security, and the resilience for the right energy mix that would be taking place in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on a very, very forward and a futuristic note. The next slide. The other aspect, moving away from the renewable energy, the other aspect is the clean hydrogen project. And I have to say that Saudi Arabia has been the pioneer. So they have been the initiator of the first large-scale green hydrogen NEOM project in Saudi Arabia, which is due to export the green molecules, ammonia molecules, by end of 2026. The project is almost in active construction phase, and this project is going to ship around 1.2 million metric tons of green ammonia per year. And we also see that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with the Yanbu project, green hydrogen project, which is almost the size of NEOM project, that is Aqua Power actively developing and would be operational by 2030, the commitment to generate 10% of world's green hydrogen is going to come clearly from Saudi Arabia, and primarily because of the kingdom has been able to demonstrate the lowest cost of energy in PV and wind, and also because of the nature of the grid reinforcement, the infrastructure facility, the green financing, the carbon bond, the IREX, and the government impetus on all of this is a sweet spot to prove that the clean hydrogen and renewable program would be an absolute success in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The other derivatives that is also being looked at from the green hydrogen is the eSAF, e-methanol, and also the co-products on local utilization and export for green steel, green aluminum, e-fuel, clean chemicals, heavy-duty vehicles, and shipping, etc. So in short, MENA and in particularly Saudi Arabia is becoming a net exporter of green energy. It is also becoming a hub of local content, whereby all the technology providers are setting up their large-scale gigafactory in Saudi Arabia to promote the local content in the Kingdom of KSA. Next slide. So I will quickly breeze through the slides. So although on the emission management and net zero commitment, we see that Kingdom is Saudi Arabia is second lowest on the methane intensity, third lowest on the flaring intensity, and on the carbon footprint amongst the oil producers, they are number one in the globe. Moving on to the next slide. This gives you a quick snapshot that by 2030, 278 million tons of metric tons per annum of CO2 emission will be reduced, and moving to 2060, whereby KSA has pledged to net zero, the carbon emission is going to reduce to zero. Of this is the footprint of all the PV, the wind, and the green hydrogen projects that have been placed and distributed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In addition, Kingdom is also pledged to plant 10 billion trees over the coming decades and rehabilitating around 4 million hectares of land to promote the development of the renewable and green hydrogen projects. My last two slides will just touch upon the data center. So this is the third element of the business that is being hugely promoted and developing in GCC, primarily UAE and Saudi Arabia, where Amazon Service Data Vault is also an Aquapower sister company, is pledged to develop data centers, green data centers for the region. Amazon Web Services have put an investment of $5.3 billion, followed by Data Vault of $5 billion investment for a 300 megawatt data center in KSA. The award is expected to be end of this year, November 2025. Next slide. So the last slide is going to give us the regional deep dive, and these are the places, the location that has been allocated, including the projects, whereby KSA and UAE are on the path to target 1.3 gigawatt to 5 gigawatt of data center by 2030. And just to let you know that a data center of 1 gigawatt size calls for an immense amount of renewable energy mix of the order of 20 gigawatt with PV, wind, and BESS applications. So this additionally is going to foster and promote the renewable energy growth in the Middle East tremendously, in addition to the green hydrogen export and also the renewable ambition drive to grow more on renewable and less be reliant on the fossil fuel. That's the last slide that I would like to represent. Over to you, Munif.
Thank you, Moyeen, for this overview. It's impressive to see that progress. And I'd like just a quick follow-up question before we go through the panel, Moyeen. Probably 2 years ago, there was one big-scale energy storage project in Saudi, and Saudi wasn't even on the map for energy storage around the world. And today we're speaking about Saudi being, I think, in the top 5 markets for energy storage in the world. That's kind of from zero to hero in probably less than 24 months. And with already, I believe, from seeing the latest updates, there's more than 7.8 plus 1, close to 9-10 gigawatt hours that are already commissioned, let's say, in Saudi. That's a huge jump. And I'd like to get from you just your insight regarding why do we need storage? Why storage and why now in Saudi Arabia, to give the context, please.
Yeah, sure. So if you have the PV and the wind, so wind being a DFIG generator does not have the capability to do grid support in terms of black start mechanism. The inverters of the PV module are also limited. So you have to complement them with a lot of STATCOMs and SVGs to make it complying to the grid code. Now, when you have a higher penetration of renewable energy and with the intermittency of the PV and the wind, you would have a huge issue with the grid congestion and with grid stability. So BESS has got a unique feature to provide this support towards grid ancillary services, peak shifting, and also provide the MVAR and also the VAR capability and the voltage regulation that is sort of missing slightly from the renewable energy. So the best is you would get the grid stability coming from conventional, from the rotating gas turbines and the steam turbines. But then if you have to move away from the fossil fuel, then the other alternate we find is BESS, which is not only able to give the grid inertia, it also has a unique feature to provide the black start capability, which a PV and a wind are not able to do so. So this is
Mhm.
absolutely imperative to have the stability and security of the grid. That BESS is key and important. And BESS also serves the additional purpose of providing energy of peak shifting, or when there's a sudden drop of renewable resource and you have to complement, and the electrons can flow in milliseconds and seconds. So you could actually pump into the grid 1 gigawatt hour in 1 or 2 seconds. Huh? That's the power of BESS. And this is also becoming very prominent, with the BESS pricing coming down to very low. So nowadays, the BESS pricing is less than $100 per kilowatt hour. I mean, that's the power. We also did a study for EBRD in Uzbekistan, where we found that BESS was also coming at par with open cycle gas turbine for peak shift for peaking operation. So the BESS is becoming absolutely potential in the renewable sphere of technology.
Thank you, Moyeen. Obviously, very exciting topic. I wish we had the time to dive deeper, but we'll have to move in the discussion to cover other aspects. If anyone has any questions to that part, please send that in the Q&A. And to give you a rest, Moyeen, after this presentation, I'd like to move to Dr. Nasser. Dr. Nasser, I think from what we heard from Moyeen, that's what we heard before some years about the Vision 2030, and we all got impressed about how big is this. I think that is nothing compared to how impressed I am personally, I think all of us, with the implementation of that vision, because that's something that is going so rapidly at a massive scale, bringing really Saudi Arabia to become one of the top 5 markets for many technologies and many industries. And we're just covering, I think, a small portion of this, let's say, today, and we cannot be covering that all. What is your, let's say, like kind of eagle's eye view on this? How is this contributing to the development of Saudi Arabia economically?
Moyeen showed a slide whereby by 2030, the kingdom will have 50% of its energy generated from renewables. That is an amazing transformation. So for our alliance, let me single out 5 building blocks, I think, where we need to cooperate and work on together. The first one is electrification and digitalization. We are all moving towards greater diversification. Saudi Arabia running ahead on that. What do we mean by diversification? At the end of the day, we're going to become more and more digitalized, more and more digital economies. What that means is that we're going to be investing increasingly in electric power and energy. That means grids, that means energy storage, it means data centers and AI, it means electric vehicles, electric transportation. And when we look at the requirements in terms of energy, even though we're talking about enormous capacity being set up, I think we will outrun that capacity if we follow through digitalization and increased electrification. Okay. Already, you've got 5G, I think, covering 95% of Riyadh and a good part of Saudi Arabia. We're moving towards 6G. And your data centers are going to be an enormous exportable industry. So I think that's one major building block. The other major building block is energy efficiency. Despite everything that we've done, we're highly energy inefficient. We use a lot of energy per unit of GDP. We're going to have to reduce that. What does that mean? It means investing in our factories, our businesses, our homes to make them more energy efficient. Number one, air conditioning. We're going to have to make air conditioning not individual units, but go towards district cooling. District cooling is 10 times more efficient than having these ugly air conditioning units hanging out of our windows. So that's going to be a major one. And in order to do so, we've got to price water and electricity much more towards the market. Okay. Already we've repriced diesel last year. That forces businesses and people to review their energy efficiency. But as you remove subsidies, people will then invest in renewable and particular solar PV. So we need to think of that as a major building block. The third building block is what is upon us already: climate risk mitigation and climate adaptation. We are in a region of the world which is most exposed to climate risks. Desertification, higher water, seawater, higher temperatures. Already in 40 years in Saudi, temperature has increased by 2.1 degrees. So we're already beyond the world levels that people worry about. So we've got to address climate risk immediately. We have no choice. Otherwise, our countries will become unlivable. What does that mean? It means reducing the risks of climate change along the various areas I mentioned. Desalination is going to be critical. We already have 50% of the world's desalination capacity. That's going to have to increase because we don't have the water. We run out of aquifer eventually, and nobody's going to replace that. The other is climate adaptation, meaning that a lot of our infrastructure, our housing and businesses will have to be adapted to changing climate. Those are massive investments that we're going to have to talk about. Fourth area, all the above needs financing. All the above needs financing. We've been relying on our sovereign wealth funds. So PIF and others, the sovereign wealth funds and all the rest have been very active. Yes, but it is now for the private sector to start playing a major role. That means that we've got to provide financing through our financial markets, through our banking and financial systems, through bonds and sukuk and equity listings. But that can be done because we have a very advantageous environment. We have a comparative advantage in renewable energy, and particularly in solar. God gave us a high degree of irradiation. So we can produce solar at much cheaper prices than anywhere else in the world. And if we integrate our grids with other countries, we can export that solar-generated power to Europe, across the waters, into Pakistan, India, and others. That requires financing. The fifth item is we need to get together, and this is, I think, what the Alliance can easily do, to start thinking of exporting a lot of these technologies. As I mentioned, we already have comparative advantage in things like district cooling, desalination, vertical farming, a lot of the clean tech and climate tech we can be world leaders in. But we need to think of exporting. So you already had heard from Moyeen what ACOPA is doing. You heard from Hisham for Yellow Door. What I would love to see in our countries, starting with Saudi Arabia, is we become major global exporters of clean tech and climate tech. So I think our ambition really should be is to make that happen. So I won't take more time. I know that Hisham is looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser. Thank you. And I think I would have to make a little detour. I've been planning to move to Tim next, but we'll give priority now to Hisham since he has to leave in 5 minutes, and then get back to you, Tim. Thank you, Dr. Nasser, for laying this off. And I want to take, Hisham, I want to take one word or statement that was said by Dr. Nasser. He said that Saudi is becoming the exporter of clean technology to the world. Yeah, this means if you export it, this means you have to manufacture it in Saudi. And I believe that Yellow Door is doing a lot to help to decarbonize the manufacturing and helping create green factories in Saudi Arabia. And I'd like to get to learn more about this concept from you and about your contribution, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasser. And thank you very much, Moyeen. Amazing, all of you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Munif, again, for the question.
Okay.
Look, absolutely. Basically, the CNI market, just to give it a little, and I guess to step in a little bit on Tim's, in Tim's world, the regulation that really opened it up for us was in 2023, where we're able to come in behind the meter for one off-taker up to 30 megawatts. And this was not available before, and it was very confusing, and no one really knew what we were allowed to do. Again, outside of utility scale projects with SPPC, with REPDO, with the Saudi the Ministry of Energy, but on an individual case, it was different. So this opened the door really for this market to really start flowing. I know there's 12, 13 developers right now in the KSA, and when it comes to you mentioned subsidies, Dr. Nasser, you mentioned subsidies and so on, and thank goodness SEC already raised the rates last month by 2 halalas, and they're going to raise them again at the end of the year, and most likely again the year after. And this is necessary for people to realize that they cannot keep depending on the subsidies, and for SEC to just lose profits by sustaining the kingdom's infrastructure. Now, on the side of manufacturing, yes, I mean 48% of the kingdom's energy is used by manufacturing, and the rest is cooling. So it's a huge entertaining, and frankly, we're very excited, and we're signing projects. We're about to go COD on one next month, and we've signed another 4 that we will begin construction on soon. We're moving forward very quickly, and it's very exciting. And again, just to give you an idea, in Jordan we have just over 100 megawatts. In Bahrain we have over 30 megawatts. In the Emirates, we're probably number 2 in the CNI in that market as well. South Africa, we're just beginning. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia, this is what we see as the largest market, with the largest future, and we're very excited to be here. And what I see really is that customers, it has been difficult to explain, not to explain, because they do understand and they see the difference. The issue that they come up with is when they have to have a 25-year PPA or lease agreement. This gives them a pause often enough. And well, what's going to happen in these 25 years? Will I not be able to get lower rates in 5 years from someone? Now, the beautiful thing, as Dr. Nasser was saying, when now SEC is actually raising the rates, we can show them, look, for 25 years, you are going to have a flat rate that is much lower than SEC, while SEC keeps raising your rate. And again, we give options for our clients, partners, to buy into the project themselves, and to either be a developer themselves or to take over the plant. So at that point, all they're paying for is O&M or maintenance of the plant themselves, but they in effect are getting free electricity. So it's very exciting, and this market is just at the infancy. I mean, I was telling Tim earlier, I mean, we have a pipeline of over 250 megawatts in Saudi Arabia alone, and that's us. So, let alone our competition. So it's extremely exciting, and I know that this is just the beginning of this market, and I hope I've been able to give you some food for thought and answer some of the questions, and not just rambled.
No, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Hisham. And it's also incredible to hear that from the company that is actually doing that on the ground, like with the huge track record that you have, Yellow Energy, and with your appointment recently, we're hoping to see the company grow further and further. So good luck with Tawfiq. And if you have to leave, then we thank you very much for your contribution. If you stay, we'll be very happy to have you.
It's been my pleasure. I do have to run, but thank you so much. And I'll be happy to answer any questions later in writing. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hisham. Okay, then I would like to ask everyone to take a deep breath and stretch a bit. Yeah, we're coming to a very, very, very important part, and we want you to be focused for that one. So, Tim, like you heard all of these positive messages from our speakers, and with all of these huge projects being achieved, renewable energy, industrial decarbonization, energy efficiency in such a short time. This means that really the regulatory framework has developed and adapted fast in order to enable that transition. And we would like to, we might be active, all of us were active in the region, so we know that. But for those especially that are not based in Saudi or in the Middle East, would like to know what is going on in Saudi Arabia when it comes to the electricity market regulations, when it comes to PV, to energy storage, maybe EV charging. If you give us a comprehensive overview of this, then that would be amazing. Then we can move after that to the Q&A section. So take your time, Tim.
Great, thanks, Manif. No, it's fair to say the regulatory framework has completely changed in the last 4 years. So there's been a lot of change, both in the electricity sector, but in terms of the general legislative framework in Saudi as well. To start at the top, if you will, the primary source of legislation for this sector is the electricity law. A new law was issued in 2021, and it's a framework for the sector. It's not a particularly lengthy piece of legislation, but it establishes the role of the Ministry of Energy in terms of setting strategy, establishes the role of the regulator to issue regulations based on that strategy. And it also touches on things such as the role of the principal buyer, which is now Saudi Power Procurement Company. They took over that role from SEC a few years ago, as well as the role of the Ministry of Finance in filling the subsidy gap that Hisham mentioned a short while ago, as they restructure the sector to make it an economic one, along with privatization. Interestingly, it also enshrines the principle that any licensee can have access to and use the grid. So wheeling is not restricted, albeit it's not yet possible because the underlying regulations aren't fully in place. Over and above that, license is required for any electrical activity unless exempted. So it's quite broad, and that would cover generation, transmission, trading, storage, district cooling, pretty much everything. Exempted activities include things like off-grid and self-consumption activities. In terms of what's being delivered, so in terms of utility scale projects, which was the focus of Dr. Moyeen's presentation earlier, from a licensing regime, it is captured, but the reality is, at the moment, for those projects, there's a twin track approach, one led by PIF, which is effectively a negotiated arrangement aimed at delivering 70% of the planned renewables, and then a tendered approach led by the principal buyer, of which I'm sure most people are familiar with. SPPC is issuing periodic bidding rounds. We're now up to round 6 in terms of delivering that. Over and above that, obviously, it's the Ministry of Energy that is setting the strategy, and we've heard a little bit about the National Renewable Energy Programme and the Net Zero Pledge by 60/60. When we move to distributed energy, a number of new regulations have been released over recent years. Firstly, in 2020, regulations were aimed at small-scale systems. So these are in the range of 1 kV to 2 megawatts, solar PV only, so effectively looking at rooftop solar. There are caps on the amount of small-scale systems that can be introduced into any particular electrical department, and it's a net billing arrangement with a carry forward mechanism. And because of the historic low tariffs, that hasn't led to a huge amount of uptake to date, but obviously that could be subject to change. Moving on to large scale systems, which is what Hisham touched on. Regulations were issued in 2022 and amended in 2023, which has led to quite a lot of excitement in the market. This is aimed at grid and off-grid systems up to 30 megawatts and covers a variety of energy sources, not just solar. So it would include battery, CSP, wind, and waste to energy biomass. Again, these are capped, so it's 3% of peak load for the particular network that you're connecting to. It's a first come, first served system. And again, net billing, which has, I guess, also had a limit on uptake, but we had already seen off-grid systems, particularly with industry that was reliant on diesel, where the prices obviously are much higher. As I mentioned, regarding wheeling, theoretically, under these regulations, that is possible. And interestingly, at the start of this year, the regulator issued a pricing methodology for that. But as of today, I don't believe that is possible. But I think the fact these regulations were issued a few months ago shows that they are moving towards allowing that possibility. Lastly, in terms of electric vehicles, regulations for these were actually issued in 2020, primarily aimed at building and operational requirements, supported by regulations issued by Ministry of Municipalities and Housing, and standards issued by SASO, the Saudi standards entity. Over and above that, it's worth noting that for all of these distributed energy activities, it is now possible to file an application online through Saudi Electricity Company's website. It has all the supporting documentation there, including information about accredited contractors, which is a requirement. So a lot of effort has happened, particularly over the last 2 years, to try and facilitate investment into this sector. Just briefly, in terms of other legal developments, we can obviously take questions if permitted. It's worth noting that the companies law has also been revised in the last few years to facilitate investment. The arbitration law has been changed. There is a new investment law, and most importantly, there is now a civil transactions law, so similar to the civil code that is seen in other Middle East markets. And this is aimed at providing a lot more certainty around some of the typical legal provisions that up till now were led to interpretation under Sharia law. So noting time, I'll pause there and pass the mic back to you, Moyeen.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much for the comprehensive overview. And I hope everyone found that useful. Definitely, we don't have much time now as the hour is about to end, but you are welcome to join us on the 9th of September to continue this exciting conversation. Myself, I wish we could go for hours now and to answer all the questions. I tried to answer some questions by chat, but there's the one, I think, or multiple questions came in one direction by Muzaffar Khalifa, by Sattar Muhammad, who are asking about what is the global contribution of greenhouse gases of Saudi Arabia and what is the plan for that, like to decarbonize. If anyone likes to comment on this question, would please, or I can also cover that. I think in 2021, 2022, Saudi Arabia contributed to approximately 1.6% of greenhouse gas emissions. And the plan till 2030 is to cut that by 55%. And I believe to get to net zero by 2060. And that's more or less the, let's say, the big plan. It's difficult now to maybe break it down over today's session, but definitely it's a topic that we would love to discuss with you, everyone, in September. Okay, I'll give, if you allow me, I'd like to use the remaining 2-3 minutes just to invite everyone before we get back to the speakers for closing remarks. I want to do a last advertising push for the event in September. So if you enjoyed this discussion today and you found that useful and you would love to meet with our esteemed experts in Saudi Arabia in person and exchange thoughts and get questions answered, we would love to see you in there. And if you have any plans to enter the Saudi market, then definitely you will have the experts in there, like Tim from Vincent Masons, that help, I believe, big corporations to enter Saudi market and establish business in there. And you'll have a great chance to network with the great members of CEBC and MESIA that represent the biggest players in the industry. We expect to have more than 300 people in that event, and we would love to have you among the attendees. Definitely, if you'd like to sponsor the event, not just attend it, then please reach out to us. I'm sure that most of you either know Roisin from CEBC or Hind from MESIA. So please reach out to any of them or reach out to me in the end of the session, and we'll be happy to guide you through the sponsoring possibilities that we have. You'll have a great exposure in the Saudi market and get to network with plenty of experts in the market covering topics regarding carbon markets, ESG, green financing, energy efficiency, renewable energy, EV charging, hydrogen, and energy storage, among other topics. Please, I'll get back now to closing remarks. Starting with our esteemed guest, Tim, and then the hosts of the event, Mr. Moyeen, Dr. Nasser, will be providing their closing remarks in order to close this session, hopefully not with more than 2-3 minutes delay. This is my email. This is the QR code. You can scan it pretty quick if you want in order to get more information about the event. I encourage you to reserve your seat and also take advantage of the early bird discount that is in there so you could get reserve your spot from today. Okay, coming back to you, Tim. I'm very excited about meeting with you and your colleagues in September in Riyadh. It's great contribution efforts that you do in Saudi. If you have any closing remarks or any comment or any point that you wish still to emphasize on, please, you may use the chance now before we move to the closing, let's say, remarks from Dr. Nasser and Mr. Moyeen.
No, well, I think I just reiterate, obviously, you know, in terms of the project delivery, that is getting all the headlines, and understandably so, because the progress that's been made in Saudi since 2020 is quite incredible. But to reiterate what I said from a regulatory perspective, the environment has changed entirely over the last 5 years, and these are changes that are primarily aimed at encouraging investment, both Saudi and foreign investment into the country. And yeah, now is the time to come if you're not here already.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a very positive note to close on. Tim, Dr. Nasser, please, last word from you representing CEBC.
Oh, very simply to say, these are extraordinary times. We are living two major transformations. One is in the energy sector. We talked about clean energy, renewable energy, clean tech, climate tech, and all the rest. But the other thing is AI and intelligent energy in all its forms. So these two revolutions, transformations, are coming together. So I think it'll mean a transformation for our region, and a very promising transformation for our region. And the final message is to remind everybody we are a membership organization. Both the CEBC and MESIA are membership organizations. So beyond the conference and get together in September, if you want to get actively involved, please join us and become members. That will allow you really to continue this extraordinary journey which is unfolding right now and in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser, for that. And I encourage, second you, and encourage everyone to join both organizations due to their huge activity and for being able to bring everyone in the industry together. Mr. Moyeen, please.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, Manif. I believe all is very well said by my esteemed panelists. I would just like to add that Saudi Arabia on its path to energy transition is absolutely phenomenal. What I have seen in the last few years, I have to reset my understanding of what is doable and what is impractical. I see the definition of what cannot be done or what is impossible is being obliterated. So the transformation, I believe we have to also give to the vision of the leaders, His Royal Highness, his vision, his articulate, manner in which he's spearheading the kingdom's transformation is absolutely key. It's not only renewable energy mix, I see power to export. So just to let you know, ACWA Power is also working on the power to export of the order of 30 gigawatt from KSA to Europe. And this may sound impractical, but we are actually working on this to how to make it realizable. Not an easy path to tread, but it's something that we are seriously working on. So there are other applications of round-the-clock applications which is going to come. So, and then obviously data center, AI, manufacturing, it's the potential in KSA is tremendous. If you just look at the renewable energy that is going to be installed in 2030, we are looking at a investment of close to $250 billion. And this is excluding data center, excluding AI, excluding green hydrogen, green ammonia export to the rest of the world.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Moyeen, for the closing remarks from your side. There are a lot of thank you messages from the audience, from Mr. Qusay Abbasi, Mr. Mustafa Bazin, thanking our esteemed panelists. I would like to also thank you very much again, Tim, I'm Spy, partner at Vincent Masons, for joining us today, for the insights that you have provided. Mr. Hisham Alhegelan from Yellow Door Energy did very good job providing like some very positive insights about the decarbonizing the industrial sector in Saudi. Mr. Moyeen provided us a very insightful presentation with a couple of slides about the market status and also like the development of the renewable energy industry. And the big picture was drawn by Dr. Nasser about the impact of this transition on the Saudi economy and the 5 different elements that constitute this big transition and make this a success. Thank you very much for joining today. I wish to thank all the audience that have attended the presentation today. I've seen hundreds between Zoom and social media. We've been broadcasting this live on social media. Thank you very much for attending. I wish to see you all in Saudi on the 9th of September. If you have questions regarding attending the event or sponsoring, please reach out to me, to Royshin, or to Hind from CEBC or MESIA. I wish you all a very good day ahead and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.